Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our series of CIBC PMA Summit Series. I'm so excited about today. This is a great one. This is 7 or 8. I'm losing count in our series. They're all on YouTube. You can pick up every one from there. They're absolutely sensational. They've been the hit of the month every month. And today we bring you Women in the Industry, which is very exciting. Tremendous panel. And I'll have Chris in just a minute outline that for you. Let me try to begin by just welcoming you all. I'm so glad you're here again with us this week. We have Alan Bellew, of course, to wrap this series up on November the 18th, coming up 30 days from now. You'll be thrilled to hear him with his international perspective, particularly after the US election. Ooh, there's an election going on. Who knew? Who knew? Anyway, what about real estate? Well, let me tell you, I am blown away by the records that have been produced here in this last 3 months. June, July, August, September. Oh my goodness, what a V-shaped recovery we've had. And it's been just absolutely consistent and consistently staggering. Resale numbers, 11,000 a month. October, probably not quite as record producing. We're feeling a little bit of pushback on price, as we've seen prices up 16% in 3 months. That's in the GTA. In Ottawa, I'll have Cheryl really comment on that, but it's been just one of the hottest markets in all of the country. But here in Toronto, we've seen a really quite significant increase in resale supply, up to 18,000 units here at month end. It probably will continue to rise. Now, the change in that supply side is important to watch because it's condo. Resale condo has jumped to 40% of that gross supply, nearly 8,000 units. That's up from just a couple thousand units that had been hovering around for a long time. Why did that happen? It happened because those impacted in high-rise condo, particularly two factors: the elevator virus, just the sense of having to wait sometimes for lengthy periods to get on the elevator to the lobby. But more importantly, more significantly, the impact was on the renter. And most condos today have been investor-driven for rental. And that renter was in the entertainment business, in the restaurant business, in the retail business. And they were disproportionately hit by COVID, causing rental accommodation to detach from where they were. And in fact, the investor a little nervous putting more product on the market. So we saw listing supply increase, and we saw rental vacancy rise for the first time. I can't remember it going up as dramatically as has had. And with that, a decrease in rental monthly rates. So for the first time again, probably I'd have to look back years before I've seen this phenomenon occur where the actual monthly rental has actually declined, the actual rate per month for a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom plan. And that's down about 6 to 8% just in the period of the last 60 days. This trend's going to continue. That's not the good news story. But the good news story in it is that its sales of condo high-rise resale continued along at the same pace. Even though supply increased to 40%, the sales proportion was still 22%, which is quite normal. Why? Because the first-time buyer is seeing prices in condo high-rise flat, in fact, in some cases declining, and the first-time buyer with free money and 5% down are taking a plunge at the high-rise market. This is going to continue to hold this market in a rather stable state as opposed to continuing declines, although it's one that we're going to have to watch really carefully. The other side of the story in this marketplace is this mass move urban to suburban. My goodness, driven by the fear of COVID, driven by a psychological impact of a consumer who looked around the room they were locked up in for 3 months and said, I hate this place. I hate it. I want out of here. And so they did with a vengeance and have moved urban to suburban like nothing we've ever seen before. Couple that with WFH, work from home. Wow, there's a phenomenon that I'm glad I'm not in the commercial real estate business, where in fact office space is empty and probably operating at around 25% capacity. And this buyer, our consumer, said, goodness gracious, if I can change my work style, then I'm going to change my lifestyle. And with great pent-up demand, soared to look for housing at some great distances in our normal levels of thinking. It's not about commuting. It's not even about drive till I qualify. It's drive to where my lifestyle is going to be the greatest that I can. And if I only have to work a day or two at the office per week, I'm going to move in the Toronto market to, goodness gracious, to Collingwood, to Lindsay, to Goderich, to Coburg, you name it. It's unbelievable the activity going on the fringe markets around the GTA, not 905, but 519 and 705. Unbelievable. And the same thing's happening in Ottawa. The price pressure of Ottawa has moved people out to Renfrew and other markets in the fringe where I can work from home. So this is something to watch really carefully. Will this be a long-term trend? I think it is. I think we're going to see law firms, banking, tech firms cause their employees to stay and work from home, giving us quite a different circumstance in suburban markets. It means that not only have we had this drive from to townhouses, stacked townhouses, back-to-back townhouses, small lot singles for affordability because we've got free money, but at the same time, free money from CIBC this week alone, free money. What's happened is a movement also into large lot singles. For the first time, we've seen a move-up market. And this is going to be very important that this market continues to fluctuate and have flexibility, where this condo scene continues to be able to produce sales and will, for the first time buyer, moving up through the system. And that's been very, very typical. Prices have been up rather dramatically in the last 3-4 months. And as a result, we're getting a little pushback on price, and that's going to stabilize the market. Resale supplies at 18,000 units in Toronto. That's quite a big jump, but 25,000 is a market in balance, so it's got a ways to go. The key for what we're looking at now is that I think this is an incredible time to buy real estate. Now, who ever heard a real estate guy say that before? The one big unknown factor, of course, and for long-term stability and growth in our market is both employment and immigration. Employment post-COVID must come back stronger. I don't ever remember selling a house to the unemployed. But at 92% employment at the moment and growing, this may not be an issue for us, although it still has this underlying fear of a consumer, therefore doesn't take action. But the entry-level buyer is looking at high-rise condo resales with a vengeance, and I think actually before immigration comes back, which will happen, maybe not for 6 months or so, but will happen. That'll be a political decision. This entry-level buyer is in a perfect position to pick off the best value in real estate that they're ever going to see in the next 5 years. When immigration returns, that underlying push of demand will push prices. So here we are. That's the story. A great market, really strong. And we move on to our topic of the day, women in the industry. When I started in this business back at the turn of the century, I won't mention which century, 80% men in this business of real estate and 20% women, as recent as probably 25 years ago. Today, the opposite has occurred, and we're 80% women and 20% men. It's not unusual, women running their own businesses. There is no glass ceiling in real estate. That is quite broken, smashed, and probably without question for the better. The great understanding that women bring of empathy and creativity and understanding on either side of a ledger has really been important for our industry. And I can't help but be excited about the subject that we have today. And I'll turn this over to Chris Markovic, our president of PMA, to introduce what is just an absolutely fabulous group of very esteemed women and very strong professionals in our industry. Over to you, Chris. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Andy. And, one thing that is a little bit different about today, and I'm excited about, is I won't be moderating the panel today. I'll be passing that over to our market leader and president of PMA Ottawa, Cheryl Rice. But before we get to that, a few quick housekeeping items. First, I'd like to thank our sponsors, specifically our title sponsor, CIBC, and the National Builder Group, where we have Yana Davies and Sherry Speakman, who have been amazing support to us for this entire initiative. I'd also like to thank the folks over at CIBC World Markets, and specifically Benjamin Tal, who has joined us now twice during this series session since the springtime. So thank you, CIBC. We have some new sponsors. SR Law, welcome. Smart Touch, Sagan, who is formerly Genworth. And if you joined us last time, you heard from Ben Tal and from Genworth, and today it's called Sagan. And then finally, Next Home Publishing, who we work very closely with. And then finally, I'd like to say a special thank you to McEwitt Partnership. Melissa and Leanne and the team have worked tirelessly behind the scenes, just making this the event that it is and making it as successful as what we've enjoyed. So thank you to everyone. Remember, please stay to the end, where we will be having what has become a really popular draw for the lunch from CIBC. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Cheryl. Cheryl?
I am here. Thank you very much, Chris. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. This is installment number 8 of the PMA-CIBC Summit Series. And again, I'm Cheryl Rice. I'm president of PMA Brethour Realty in Ottawa. And I'm thrilled to be moderating today's roundtable chat about women in residential construction. And why is this an important topic? Well, it's important because 90% of the construction labor force are men, which means the industry presents a huge opportunity for women. And it's these opportunities, along with some of the challenges that go along with it, that we want to bring to the forefront today. And to help me do that, we've lined up an absolutely remarkable panel of 5 accomplished women who are all leaders in their field and are a testament to just how far women have come and how far they can go in a very male-dominated industry. So really excited about this. I'm going to jump right in and introduce you to these fabulous ladies, and then I'll go around the table and ask each of them to tell us a little bit about themselves. So joining our panel today, we have Jeanhy Shim, president of Housing Lab Toronto, Sherry Speakman, national manager, builder business development for CIBC, Sepide Morshedi-Zadeh, I hope I got that right, Sep. and Sep is vice president of marketing for Madame Homes. Michelle Taggart, vice president of land development for Tamarack Homes and Taggart Investments. And Helena Medeiros, vice president of operations for Waterproof Masters. And Helena was also a former site super, so I think we're going to have a couple of specific questions for her. Now I'll turn the mic over to our guests, and let's start with Jeanhy. Jeanhy, would you please tell us a little about yourself and your role at Housing Lab Toronto?
Okay. Can you hear me? Yep, I think I'm unmuted. Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this amazing panel today. My name is Jeanhy Shim. I've been working in the real estate development business for the last 28 years. Kind of in I've got 4 kind of hats that I wear. Primarily, I've been working as a strategic market analyst and development consultant. So I currently work through my own firm, Housing Lab Toronto. We do work with a lot of developers throughout the Greater Toronto area primarily, and I help them with their market analysis work, understanding what's possible, helping them with the product development. I'm also an entrepreneur and a change maker. I have a few of my own initiatives that I've launched previously. We're working on some exciting new initiatives around affordable housing coming up. I'm also quite active in my community. I serve on several boards, volunteer on several boards, including Waterfront Toronto, the Barrie Road Food Co-op. I'm quite active in ULI, the Urban Land Institute of Toronto, as well as the newly formed Black North Initiative. And lastly, I'm a mom. It's probably my favorite job of all the hats I have, but that's essentially kind of what I do and what I've been doing, and I look forward to participating in today's panel discussion.
Great, excellent, thank you. Michelle, tell us about yourself and your role at Tamarack and Taggart.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm really honored to be here learning and sharing my experiences with all of you guys today. My name is Michelle Taggart. I work for my family business. It's the Taggart Group of Companies, and we're based out of Ottawa and Kingston. We have 4 operating companies that cover a wide spectrum: real estate development, planning, finance, construction, property management. We do residential, commercial, retail, office. As a group, we employ 600 people, plus our subtrades and consultants. And in our business, we have over a dozen family members who work together. Most of my family members are male, but that's slowly changing as we move from the 2nd generation into the 3rd generation. So what I do is I manage land development for Tamarack Homes. It's our house building company, and we build around 400 houses a year. I'm responsible for getting the communities designed, getting all the government approvals, getting them serviced and graded. And I don't actually build the houses. I'm really responsible for the land. And I've been working in the industry for 14 years, and I've been with the family for 10. So before I came back to Ottawa, I was in Toronto working as an urban planner for urban strategies. I have a commerce degree. I have a master's in urban planning. I'm a registered professional planner, and I'm one of 3 sisters, and I also have 3 daughters. So women's issues are close to my heart. So thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent, thank you. Sherry from CIBC, tell us a little about yourself, please.
Thank you, Cheryl. I am really excited about being part of your panel today. It's really nice that you're taking this time to share everybody's experiences and ideas with the community. I'm responsible for managing and promoting CIBC's Builder Mortgage Program, which is assisting the builders and their sales teams in providing customized mortgage programs for the purchasers. I was actually, so now I'm dating myself, one of the original pioneers way back when, and that'll take you back to when Springdale actually originally opened up. So that's going back quite a ways. I've got 28 years experience in the new home mortgage industry. I've worked with numerous builders across Canada, and I have received many awards throughout my career, but the most prestigious that warms my heart the most is the Riley Brethour Award that I received from Andy. I've served on numerous home builder associations locally, provincially, and nationally over my career. I am the mother of 5 children, 3 sons, 2 daughters. They're all adults, all pursuing careers, and 3 gorgeous grandkids.
Fantastic, great. Well, we look forward to hearing more from you as well, Sherry. Sep, you're up next. Sep is with Mattamy Homes.
Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here with you all. I've been working in the industry for almost 12 years now. And before that, my high school summer jobs were also always in real estate. So been around for a while, holding a bunch of different roles over the course of my career. Worked extensively in land acquisition, so conducting due diligence, determining best land use, identifying the customer, and sort of building out all the schedules and budgets, and ultimately getting approvals from our investment committees to move forward. When I joined Mattamy back in 2015, it was to start the urban infill division. So focusing on developing and bringing to market infill developments that were primarily within the 416. So it included designing all the product and really all aspects of marketing. So now in my current role as VP of Marketing for Canada, I've stepped away from marketing of communities and buildings, and my focus is more on broad reaching initiatives that span nationally. So things like our branding, our website, CRM strategies, consumer segmentation, digital marketing technologies, and obviously selling digitally these days with COVID. So it gives me a chance to sort of forward plan, and definitely an exciting time to be in the industry. So I'm very much enjoying it.
Excuse me, can everybody hear me now?
Mhm.
Okay, I've had a little failure with a headset device, so I will just ignore it as long as you can hear me. Okay, so, and fifth member on our panel is Helena. Helena is with Waterproof Masters. Please share a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I too am very happy to be here and honored to be asked to be part of this panel. Let's see, I started in this industry, I like to think about 20 some odd years ago, but my son reminds me there's a 3 in front of that number and it's over 30 years. So it's been a while. I started, believe it or not, as a site finishing junior super / decor consultant. And I know those two do not go together, but I worked for a very small company that the owner, he was very determined to ensure that people were invested in what you were doing right from the onset, and putting me in decor prior to constructing, helping finish these homes, finishing them, gave me a connection with individuals. So now I was invested in what was happening in the industry itself, and I had accountability and responsibility. My career over the years morphed from finishing to site super, to also getting my building science and building envelope accreditation, and then slowly morphed into the trade aspect of the construction industry. Currently, I'm with Waterproof Masters and Associates, and I have been here for going on 6 years now, and my role is VP of Operations. We work with very many project managers with property management companies, and we retrofit underground garages. So I've been able to utilize my building science background to help streamline and build programs for building specific needs and waterproofing. And we've launched a new division in the States for elevator pit waterproofing. So it's rather exciting and rather busy. I too am a mom of adult children, which, you know, is fantastic, especially now in COVID, because there's no way I could teach and do this job at the same time. That's not going to happen. So, but I've been here for quite some time, and I enjoy doing what I do. And you have to be, it's a little bit crazy to be in this industry because it's the only way you can understand it, right? So, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. My goodness, I told you guys we had a great panel. Thank you, ladies, very much for those introductions. And thank you to the audience for joining us today. We've got a lot of ground to cover. And by the way, if anyone has any questions for us as we go along, there's a Q&A feature that you can submit your questions, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. All right, so let's get into this. Jeanhy. Jeanhy, this question is for you first. It could, you know, I'd like to talk a little bit about turning points in our careers. Maybe it was an achievement, a specific opportunity, maybe to try something new. Maybe it was just one of those, you know, eureka moments. So my question is this: if you had to think of a major milestone in your career, what would it be? Jeanhy, you first.
Oh, thank you. Tough question. There's been a lot of, you know, milestones along the way in my 28-year career so far. But if I had to choose one, it would probably be becoming a mom, getting pregnant. I got pregnant a bit later in my career when I was 40 years old. So I had been working for quite some time leading up to that. And I kind of say that it's kind of a major milestone because I think that it really broadened my perspective on kind of city building, my role in it, my potential role in it. I took a year off, and then certainly kind of kept in touch though with the industry, and just when my daughter was 6 months old, I started doing some light consulting work. So I remember bringing her to meetings in a stroller and during nap time, and having her there. But yeah, I'd say that was a major milestone because, like I said, it kind of, I'd already been working for quite some time at that point, about 18 years. So it really, like I said, broadened my perspective on life, on the role of home. And again, I really started thinking about when you become a mom, you actually just broaden your network because you meet other moms in daycares, you get into the school system, you start thinking about issues and being involved in them a lot differently. And certainly that was an important pivot point in my career where I've been pivoting now more towards using my network, my skills, my experiences, focus more on kind of social good, trying to tackle a lot of these kind of issues in our communities that require a lot of attention, and that we in the city building industry can really have to play an important role in helping to fix and find solutions. So I'd say that was a major moment, and obviously just an amazing moment in my life in general as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, I know that what happens, throughout life is our priorities change. And sometimes with a new priority, it opens up a new opportunity. So that's great. Now, Helena, what about you?
I'd like to say it was my kids as well, but that's kind of a given for me. And I know where you're coming from, Jeanhy. I get that. I get toting them and bringing them to site and whatnot. For me, I can say it was acknowledgements through work and advancements with promotions, but it was more so the ability and the development of the site trades on the site and the ability to have them be accountable for what they were doing and choosing to own up for their work, be it great work, work that needed to be redone, just to take that ownership and claim it and be able to call me on site and say, hey, Helena, I need you to come and take a look at this, lay eyes on this, bring the electrician, bring whoever you need to, because something's not right here. And everything comes up in a job site. It is a natural daily occurrence for something to just not happen the way on paper you planned it and it worked out perfectly. But when you add the human aspect to it, it just doesn't turn out the way it was planned and scheduled. But when you turn around and have somebody say to you, look, I need you to come and lay eyes on what you're doing here, what we're looking at before I cover this up, I choose not to cover it up. It doesn't seem like a lot on a site, but at the end of the day, when you're talking about trades that are working in conjunction with people in head office, for instance, it's a huge milestone to have them take accountability for what they're doing and make it right before it's covered up. And it seems like a little thing, but I take great pride in being able to have them come to me and say, look at, and then when I step back and I see them take that to another job site and call a site super and say, look at, I need you to bring the hardwood guy onto the site here. I got to show you this. I don't want to cover this up. It's huge. And I'm extremely proud of that. It's taken me a long time to be able to get them to be comfortable to do that. And it does make me very proud. It's a proud moment for me, actually.
And so you should be. I think that, inclusion, which is some of what you're talking about, is really important for women as we go through our careers, especially in a male-dominated role where maybe the guys are kind of getting together and, in some industries we call it the old boys club, but bringing women into the fold and listening to them and taking their advice and allowing them to help other people grow. I think that's fantastic. Thank you for that. Okay. Now the next question, Michelle, I'm going to start with you, and this is actually a two-parter. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations that have the potential of completely changing the trajectory of our career. If you think back to a situation and the behavior displayed by you, your supervisor, and maybe even your peers, what was the impact of that situation? So what's the impact is part one. Number two is, has it guided your career decision-making, up to now, and how? Michelle, over to you.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for the question. Early in my career, I spent a lot of time stressing about how I would achieve my goals, how I would rise up through the organization, worrying if a certain person said something about me or said something to me, worrying about making a mistake, basically trying to be perfect. And every time I would get myself into one of these situations, I would go to my dad. He was the president of Taggart Construction for many years. And, I would worry to him about what was going on. And he must have told me 1,000 times the same thing. Focus on your work. Don't worry about what people are saying. Trust your instincts and keep going step by step. And your work speaks for itself. So it's not just one situation that impacted me, but it's going through so many different situations. And every time getting that constant reminder that really helped me stay focused and keep going. I mean, we're all going to have setbacks. Everybody makes mistakes. We're all going to get criticized. But if you focus on your work and you trust your instincts and you keep on going, you're going to be just fine.
So the saying that, women have to work much harder, than men at kind of moving our careers along and even giving the appearance that we're as good as them, we have to work harder. And we do set a very high kind of standard for ourselves in the work we do. And that puts a lot of pressure on us, right? So, all right. Well, thank you, Michelle. That was really interesting. Okay. Sherry, I'm going to throw this question out at you. I'm sure there are a lot of women in our audience who are just getting their careers off the ground. Mm-hmm. If you could give someone any advice at the start of their career, what would that be?
Well, I'll say the same thing that I would say to my 2 daughters. Have a passion for what it is that you're doing. Be the best that you can. Don't think you can do it. Think you will do it. Always give over 100% of yourself. Don't coast, because nobody likes a coaster. Learn everything you can. Knowledge is power. You'll learn things from just having conversations with people, but always take note of what you're hearing. So basically listen to what is being said. And I've always said to them, don't look for someone else to get you to where you want to be. Depend on yourself. So you've got to get there on your own wits. Your successes will speak for themselves. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Hold your head up and forge ahead.
So it sounds like the advice that a father might even give to his son, right?
I've given the same advice to my sons. So being a mom of 3 sons and 3 daughters, the advice will always be the same.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to think, or they've not been brought up to think, that because they're male, they'll have different advantages than being a female. Yeah. So it's a fair playing ground for all 5 of them.
And Helena, what about you?
What about, sorry.
Helena, if you could give advice at the start of someone's career, what would it be?
I agree completely with Sherry. For me, it would be learn from the best. Surround yourself with people who you admire so that you can absorb their knowledge and ask them questions. Because truly the best, they want to teach. They don't want to keep everything bottled to themselves. They want to put it out there and teach the next generation, regardless if it's male or a female. Be confident in your knowledge and not to be intimidated about what you don't know. I actually pulled one of a very young male worker aside, and he was stressing out because he said, I don't know, I look like an idiot. And I said, no, you don't. You know the answer to this. It's just you are not coming to the conclusion that they want you to come to. You're going to come to this on your own, and you're going to do it. It doesn't mean it's incorrect. It just means it's different. And I would say on a site perspective, be present on a site if you can every day. It's easy for us to get tunneled behind paperwork, just to, sit behind a desk at an office, at head office, at a site, in your car. My car was my office for many, many years. but walk your site, get to know what you're building, and get to understand what the team is building, and speak with the people on site. They're there to build this industry together with you. We build together. It takes a village to build a village, and use the knowledge that's in front of you. And I'm with Michelle. I too had many talks with my dad. And he said the same thing. He's like, "What are you worried about?" He's like, "There's no crying in construction." And I'm like, "I know." But he's like, "You're doing it. So just keep doing it. And remember, it's what you have on site is not a skill. It's a valuable asset, because when you're hitting boots on the ground and you're talking to the people who are actually doing the work, and I'm sure Michelle and Seb can attest to this, even Jeanhy, you are you're building relationships without even realizing what's happening around you. And when it comes to certain situations on a site, you will see that come back to you threefold.
So, putting yourself out there is really critical, I think, to anybody's role here. I took your point that you can't be sitting in an office. You have to get out onto the site, and we all do that. And that's a really important point. Okay, so that was advice kind of to the novice. Let's talk about advice targeted to, a veteran, an industry vet, because, they've got some learning to do too. Sep, let me throw this one out at you. It's a bit of a twist on the previous question, but if you could give an industry veteran advice, what would it be?
Yeah, I think one key piece of advice would be take time to mentor young women, take time to sponsor them, get to know them, what do they bring to the table? And then that way you can provide them with opportunities, stretch assignments, special projects, a new network, opportunities and contacts. And second piece of advice I'd say is invite them to meetings. And when you invite them to those meetings, specifically ask for their opinions and their insights in those meetings. So they may be less likely to speak up unprompted, but they definitely have ideas and they have a different outlook that's beneficial to hear. And they just may be a little shy or waiting politely to find that opening to speak up. And then unfortunately, the rest of us are maybe too busy speaking to leave that room for them. So invite them in and give them that room to speak.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we're actually going to be talking about mentorship in a few minutes, because I think it's worth a little exploration, and I'd like to hear your input on that. Jeanhy, let me throw that same question out to you. If you could give an industry vet some advice, what would you say?
What kind of advice would I give? Well, I guess I've been in it for 28 years, so I'm kind of maybe straddling veteran and starting out. I agree with all the points that everyone has made in terms of advice to people at the start of their career. What Sep just said in terms of for veterans, mentoring is really, really important. The other couple of things I would add in kind of for veterans in terms of what sort of advice is to add on to the kind of the mentoring idea, this formal mentoring, but also I think that our leaders, veteran leaders should take the time to actually mingle and circulate and get to know other people in your company who are not in your immediate kind of senior leadership circle. I think it's really important to kind of go to the lunchroom, or I guess when we were doing that, or when we will start doing that, but really kind of it broadens your perspectives, gets you to really understand what's happening in your company, interact with kind of the newbies and kind of the younger people and all different departments. I think as a leader in any kind of company, that really makes you a much more empathetic leader and makes you a better leader in terms of really understanding the business. Because the people on the ground, that's really valuable intel. The other thing I would add in, and more kind of women focused, is as much as we've made a lot of strides and men contribute a little bit more to the traditional things that women do, the reality is still, sadly, that women do still take on the majority of, again, I'm generalizing, but childcare, responsibilities, taking care of the home responsibilities, and now for certain of us, a certain age, is also aging parents. So I think that advice to a veteran leader in particular is to trust your women and to trust them, because they are juggling a lot of things, whether it's young kids, even teenage kids, aging parents. So when you've got your kind of middle or entry, or probably more middle management kind of women at that, 30s and 40s who are juggling all this stuff, and they have to leave because they got a call from the daycare that your child got a fever and come pick them up in the middle of the day. I think that kind of showing that trust is really, really important, because you don't need to add to their stress. And women, we're all very self-conscious, and we're perfectionists, and we want to get the job done right, and we will. But I think accommodating just the realities of life, I think is really, really important. And certainly for women, especially when you get to mid-career, when you start having children, and like I said, kind of aging parents. I mean, I have my own business, so I'm my own boss, so I'm quite lucky in that regard. But I do remember, when I did work in larger companies, how that's really important to feel that the leadership, that you have the support. And it isn't this kind of counting the clock, right? Like, you to take a half day of vacation because you have to go pick up your child from daycare. Like, what's that all about? Like, that's counterproductive. And so I think, again, maybe this is a very specific thing, but I really believe that leaders, whether it's men and women, let's not forget that women at a certain stage in their careers are juggling a lot of things and a lot of to-do lists in our head all the time. So that would be the one thing I would say.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I think what we picked up on there is, there are three or four different points: trusting, accommodating, and mentorship, which are all really key. And thank you for those responses. And as I mentioned, we will talk about mentorship in just a few minutes. All right, shifting gears a little bit, but not that much. Sherry, this question is for you. So here we are today. We've assembled a fine panel of women experience, to focus on the essential role that women can play in this industry. So my question is, why is it important to have conversations like this one today? And maybe stepping back, is it important? Is it still important? And do you think there'll ever be a time when we won't have to have these discussions? Sure.
That's a good question. And putting a lot of thought into it over the years, I hope these sort of conversations never stop, because we're always learning something from each other. As Jeanhy has said, we're juggling. So in having these sort of communications and with all these different panelists, everybody has learned how to juggle in a different way and how to balance a life work and how to make it work for them. So everybody has a different idea. To me, the day you think you know everything is the day you might as well put it to bed and go somewhere else, because you learn something every single day. Communication and conversation is always important. You'll find over the years, your boys club, they used to go out for beer after work, and interesting, that's probably where they shared all these types of stories. I think we're just a little bit more open in our format in how we're sharing our stories. So whether you're having these conversations with men or women, it's how we learn. So to listen to men panels or listen to women's panels, everybody has, like I said, the same sort of challenges. And I don't think they are as tough today as they were maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I think we're more open about having certain types of discussions today than we were when I was younger. So I hope they never stop. I really do. I think these are key. Just for people to know that you're not an island and you're not alone. There's lots to learn. There's lots of women out there dealing with juggling life, time management, don't know where to go with my career, don't know what career to pursue. So this way, by having these sort of panels and discussions, women, and I hope there's dads out there who are thinking I should be telling my daughters to watch these sort of things, just to get an idea of what sort of career you want to pursue, because you have here alone 5 different types of careers being shared with your audience.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so the conversations like this and women, I mean, conversations for women in a lot of different industries is pretty common. It's not just construction, but I think we'll all agree that, you know, women tend to be very open with one another, and even with their male counterparts and peers and supervisors. You know, that's kind of the next hurdle for us. And also we've got a new generation of young women who are entering the workforce, and their challenges are going to be different.
Mhm.
Right? So
Absolutely.
I totally agree. We need to continue to keep these conversations going. They're very important. All right. So actually, Seppa, I think you and I were talking a little bit about this earlier. So what's your opinion on, you know, what do you think about keeping these conversations alive, and do you see them as necessary going forward?
Yeah, Cheryl, I think we talked about it a little bit, but I agree. I think these conversations need to continue. Sherry, I agree with you there. I think it's more, you know, what we talk about specifically will shift, but the concept, I think, needs to continue. I think at this stage in time, we've heard the research, we've bought into the fact that diversity in the workplace is important, not just for the sake of diversity, but literally because it does positively impact the bottom line and the long-term future of a company. So at this stage, I think that conversation's been had. We've all bought into that. I think now we shift into how do we make that happen, and you know, how do we actually attract, recruit that more diverse workforce, and then once they're there, how do we give them the opportunities to actually have that true meaningful impact in those organizations, and really give them the opportunities to shift the companies we're in and shift our industry forward. It's not really just about let's bring women forward. It's about let's bring our whole industry forward and let's do bigger and better things. And I think a huge part of this is, and Sherry, you touched on this, it's not really just a female conversation. This is really about how do we, if our industry is so male dominated and we have all these men in these high positions, let's get them as allies and let's have the conversations with them to understand how they can actually do the things that help us really move the whole industry forward.
Yeah, and actually, I know that I think that as of last week, about 50% of those who registered were men. So, you know, they're listening to this conversation, and although they don't have a voice, you know, I think it's really great that they're listening to all of these great women talk about these topics. Michelle, I've got a question for you. And it kind of relates to some of the barriers to success that we've talked a little bit about already, but what has been your most challenging obstacle or significant barrier working in a male-dominated industry? And how did you overcome those challenges to be where you are today?
It's a great question. The most challenging obstacle, I would say, is figuring out how to build successful relationships in a male-dominated industry. So as a woman, I think somebody said earlier, there's a bit of an old boys club in this industry. So figuring out how to build good relationships, and actually taking it a step further is how to leverage good relationships. So there's this great book called How Women Rise. It's by Sally Higginson. And there's a chapter in there about how men and women build relationships differently. And it really resonated with me, where men tend to think right away about who do I need to connect with to make this job or this project a success? Women, by contrast, tend to keep our heads down, make sure we got everything mastered and we're fully prepared before we start reaching out. And women are more likely to think, you know, I don't want people to think I'm using them. I don't want to play political games. And we have this underlying belief that exercising leverage is the same as not being very nice. But leveraging relationships is key for success. And it's something that men do all the time. You help me, I'll help you. So I guess I learned over the years that it's not, leveraging a relationship isn't just about taking, it's giving and taking equally. It's win-win. So it's something that I have worked on over the years, and I think is really helped me to excel in my career.
And
it's that give and take balance.
Yeah,
it's key.
Yeah, and it's clearly served you well, Michelle. So
Thank you.
there's something from other women to take from that. So thanks a lot. All right, so Helena, I've got a question for you now, and I mentioned earlier that Helena was a site super, and I'm sure there's people in our audience who have a burning desire to know what was it like working on site and directing a team of mostly men, and did it change over the years? And if it did, how?
Well, I'll just put it out there. It wasn't always easy, but it eventually became very worth it. Leading a man-filled industry has come very much with its challenges, and I found more so in the beginning of my career. Like Sherry, I was one of the only women on site in my 20s, walking a construction site in boots that didn't fit me, and because I had to have them. And I remember losing boots in a mud pile, and one of the site supers actually coming up to me, one of the old staunchy ones, and saying, "Well, if you had man's feet, this wouldn't happen." And I'm thinking, all right, so what do? I was like 27 years old looking at this guy going, yeah, okay, let's just move on from here and get me my boot. But I've it takes a while to prove yourself in the industry, to be honest with you. I don't find so much anymore. I really truly wish if I had an opportunity to do things over again, it would be in this era, because the mindset of women in construction is so much more open to the men in construction now. And we touched on what it looks like with respect to the industry today. It's not about a movement about getting women in. It's about, to me, it's about keeping women interested and wanting to grow and build and rise up that proverbial ladder that everybody wants to get up there. I've had times where I have been leading and I can see the men in the meetings uncomfortable with my authority. One time we were working on a clubhouse project for a golf course, and we were going through the technical drawings, and I was looking through cut sections, and I had this man put up his hand and he said, "Excuse me, miss, do you even know what a cross section is?" And I just looked at him. I thought, where's this coming from? And I actually started laughing. I thought, how am I going to deal with this? And the guys on site that I had been working with for many, many years, like, I'm not saying that this happened to me in my 20s. This happened to me in my late 30s. And one of the guys turned to him and said, "I can't believe you just asked her that." And they all started laughing. And I thought, okay, so here it is. Like, I've hit that proverbial round table. I'm in. They're standing up for me. But I also realized it wasn't because I knew what a cut section is. It was because I've garnered my career on respect for everyone in it, and recognize that regardless if you're a man or a woman, we're all speaking the same language. We're all in here with a vested interest to end up with the same result. And it's bode me well to work that way with people. And it's something that I don't think it'll change unless people are wanting it to change. And when I say they're wanting it, it has to start from the industry heads. It has to start from the owners who are looking to build diversified teams, to allow people to work, to speak up. As Seb said, invite young women into your board meetings. I work for a builder who he was very much into org charts, and everything was about org charts, and our meetings were level 10 meetings, and which kind of made me laugh, because I'm like, well, if upper management is level 10, I really do need the level 1s and 2s who are walking on the site in here, because they're the ones who know what's happening. They're the ones who can introduce you to what is exactly going on these sites. And I also tell them that what we have to do is allow our girls, our young women, to work on sites and to not lead them on a leash, give them the freedom to do what it is they know they're doing and allow that to happen. And once men get that on a site, it's a lot easier to deal with on a daily basis. And I have seen that change slowly, but incrementally it is changing, and it's a good thing. I have been able to push a lot of women in this direction, and they're happier for it, actually.
So thank you for that. You have given me the perfect segue for my next question. So I earlier quoted that a statistic that 90% of the total construction labor force is men. That leaves only 10% for women. I'm wondering if there's a stigma as part of the reason for that. You know, and you've touched on this a little bit. Are employers discouraging or hindering women from pursuing a career in construction? Are we hindering ourselves? You know, meaning that there's only a minority of women who are actually interested in working in the industry. So Sep, I'll pass the response off to you for that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. So interestingly, when I was in business school, all my colleagues, all my colleagues at the time were going into industries like finance, IBEC, consulting, accounting, and I kind of sat there. I had been exposed to the real estate industry, and I knew this is what I wanted to do because I had that direct exposure to it, and seeing how, you know, we're building a physical product. It's there, and it's what people live in. It's what, you know, we go home to every day, to our homes, and that's what our industry does. And I just, because of my exposure to it, I had been so drawn. But I don't think that everybody gets that exposure. And so I don't believe it's that we're actively discouraging women from joining, but perhaps it's more a lack of encouragement by employers and a lack of exposure to the industry. So, you know, typically construction, engineering, finance, they're not typically female dominated worlds. Construction sites are definitely viewed as male dominated, and our offices are seen as boys clubs, like we've talked about here today. So I think the step for us is to actively break that stigma. And there's ways we can do this. I think the first step is really just addressing the culture within. So like we've talked about a little bit, providing the opportunities for women that are already within our organizations. And interestingly enough, I get the Harvard management tip of the day every morning in my inbox. And funny enough, this morning, it was about how men can call out sexism as they see it, and how they really, and it gave you kind of really easy ways to as a man reading this, it makes it easy for you to be able to call that out in a way that is constructive, how to be an ally without sort of also feeling like you're anti, you know, the other guys in the club. So I think that's one key way. And then the other way is sort of what we've touched on before, this whole conducting outreach at schools, starting in middle school, high school, colleges, universities, showing students what our industry really is like, because like I said, it is so special. We're building the roofs that are over all of our heads right now. So I think it's a really cool thing that we do. We just need to sort of highlight it.
Right, right. And I don't think there's any reason why we can't learn to operate a crane. All right. So changing gears a little bit again, we're trying to cover all of the topics. By the way, thank you very much for that fantastic response. Appreciate that. Okay, so in addition to formal education and skills training, there seem to be a lot of resources available to women to help us succeed in this business. Jeanhy, this question is for you, and my question is this. What resources and organizations have been the most useful to you as a woman working in this industry to either get into the business or to advance your career? I think you've got some relevant background here to respond to that.
In terms of the organization, and this is one piece of advice I'd give to, especially to anybody, men and women who are starting out in their careers, is to get involved in industry organizations. For me in my career trajectory, they've been an integral part, a very important part of helping me to kind of be where I am today. Certainly in my field, more residential mixed use development, I was quite active in the Building Industry and Land Development Association build right from the outset. Through my company, I was a member, and then going to all the events. And one of the advantages at the start of your career as well is you have no other responsibilities. You probably don't have kids. You might still be single. You have time. So then is the time to get involved in these organizations. They put on tons of great events. I was quite active in Build. Not only did I attend the events, but I actually put my hand up and I actually chaired the High Rise Committee, I think for 10 years. I only got off when I was pregnant and took mat leave. And then I also volunteered, and I used to organize all the high-rise international housing study tours that we did. And that was all volunteer stuff. But what I got back from that in terms of the people that I met, the networking, the stuff I was exposed to, the experiences is invaluable. And it's certainly in the early part of your career as well. And a lot of relationships that I made at that point, you kind of progress as well. With people in your own kind of age group. So, we all keep in touch. The other organization that I've since shifted and been a lot more involved in is the Urban Land Institute, another great organization. There you join as an individual. And again, through ULI, I've stepped up. I serve on the management committee. I'm co-chairing the new Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. So again, always lots of opportunities to volunteer and to step up. And I think that's really important part of your career. And when you're younger, you have a lot more time. And even though I'm quite busy now in juggling, I still make time for it. It's still really, really important to get involved. And I know if you're in finance and commercial real estate, there are a ton of other organizations as well. But those are the two in particular that I tell all my mentees, all my students that I'm lecturing to is like join, build, and join ULI.
All right, so to attendees, you've got some great takeaways there. Go run with it. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Sherry.
Yes.
I'm going over to you because, you work in the finance sector. It seems that there's been a growing number of career opportunities in finance for women over the years, including even at the senior level management, where I think something like 35 to 40% of those jobs are women. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so how has the financing world changed for women since you started in the industry?
Oh my goodness, thank you. Good question. Actually, a tough question. When I started, I reported to a male who reported to a male who reported to a male. So that was our org chart going up. Today, I presently report to a female who reports to a female, who reports to a female, who reports to a female. So you've gone from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. I think today, especially in finance, in bank world, as we refer to it, I don't think it matters whether you're male or female, it's who's best at the job and who can get the job done. And what you're seeing is more and more women rising to the top. And they were probably always there, but because, days of old, it was always the men club and they'd bring their buddies up with them. You're seeing more and more women being decision makers, influencers, and very much in predominant positions at the bank. And what's interesting, when I first started in this role, way back when, I'm dating myself now, it was always men that were in the meetings with me. It was very rare to see a woman. And I had to learn very, very quickly. All of a sudden I had to watch hockey games so that I could have conversations about hockey and baseball and football and so forth and so on, so that I could at least have conversations with them. But what you soon realize is they also have kids and family and whatnot. So we were able to start talking about kids and family and et cetera, which took away that stigma of being a male-oriented business and being a woman jumping into it, because we found a common ground, which took away that stigma. But you're seeing more and more and more women involved in the banking world, in more day-to-day decision making, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, so we are moving up in the ranks. We've got, I mean, all of the women here are working at the senior level. Finance has seen a lot of change over the years, and I did do some reading on finance that they have been more progressive than a lot of other industries, that encouraging women, promoting women, and making sure that they get all the support they need. So, Cheryl, thank you very much for that. So I mentioned earlier that we were going to have a question on mentorship. So mentoring is important no matter what the industry. We all know this, but maybe more so for women working in a male-dominated industry like construction. Michelle, if I can pose this question to you, what do you think, like what role do you think a mentor plays in helping women in this industry? And my next question is, should the woman's mentor be a woman?
Well, I have been very lucky. Throughout my career, I've had many mentors, both men and women. And the advice that I get from male mentors is different from the advice I get from women. And that's why I like having both perspectives. The men tend to be more focused on external factors, how to get the job done, how to achieve what we want, who I should trust, who I should approach. And the women, and in particular, my current mentor, her name is Lizita Kennedy, and she has helped me focus on developing myself, owning my role in the company, trusting my instincts. We talk about bringing a female perspective into land development and how to make it a strength. She's also encouraged me to continue to learn, to read books like How Women Rise and many others. So you need both, and you need the balanced perspective. You need that external advice, and you need a little bit of a spotlight on yourself to help grow yourself.
Right. Perfect. And you know what? That is a beautiful ending to our story today. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I have to say, this panel has been stellar. Thank you very much, ladies. We could not have done it without you. Thank you so, so much. And in conclusion, I hope this conversation has inspired and motivated those of you who are considering a career in the construction industry or working on your own personal strategy to get ahead in the business. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this, and it's back over to Chris because I think he has some prizes to give away. Thank you for attending, and stay safe.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, everyone. I think the message is become an ally and become a mentor. Couple of things. I'd like to go back to when I came on at the beginning. In this day and age of COVID, when we are spending so much more time at home, having a nice balcony is important. So I'd like to thank Balcony Bliss, one of our sponsors who I didn't mention earlier. Again, thank you to our new sponsor, Balcony Bliss. Today's two draw winners for our CIBC lunch are Manling Lau and Donna Singh. Congratulations. Enjoy the lunch from CIBC. Again, on behalf of PMA Brethour and McEwitt Partnership and CIBC, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Our next and final edition of the Summit Series in this season is coming up on November the 18th. Look into your inboxes for the invitations. We are planning season 2. Send us your suggestions for topics you'd like to see covered on these sessions. Send us information about you if you'd like to get involved as a sponsor. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much.